Breaking news here on the Chicago Bears podcast, probably a little bit late because we're pre-recording this and we had to do this last minute after recording an entire pod in the morning, but that's neither here nor there. It's not your problem because we're here to give you the latest news around the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears have hired Ben Johnson as their next head coach. Ryan Poles gets his guy, and there is a lot to be said around Ben Johnson that I find very intriguing. He was the number one guy that I wanted the Chicago Bears to go out there and get. I am very happy that they did. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave the 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Let's jump into the conversation here, directly into the conversation, because at this point you probably have heard that the Chicago Bears have hired Ben Johnson, but some of the nuances around this I think are very interesting because you get Ben Johnson here, and the first thing that we hear is that he's already busy assembling a star-studded coaching staff. The leading candidate to become the defensive coordinator in Chicago is former Saints head coach Dennis Allen. This is going out and taking the big swing. This is going out and leaving no stone unturned. This is going out in the Chicago Bears saying, hey, no matter what, if we do go out ugly, if Ben Johnson does not work, it will not be because we didn't try and do every single thing in our power for him to be great. Now, for me, I've done this before. I'm a Bears fan, just like most of you are. I understand when I look at Ben Johnson that in 3 seasons in his time in Detroit, his offense ranked top 5 in scoring all 3 years. His offense finished 5th in 2022 and 2023 and 1st in 2024, 33.2 points per game. I understand that the Lions led the NFL in scoring this season for the first time since 1954. I understand all of those numbers that tell you that this guy is going to be the next coming of amazing in Chicago. But I also understand what I've seen here in this city over the years, and realistically speaking, it doesn't work out in our favor. I'm going in on this excited because I do believe, and he was my number one guy, I do believe he's the guy that can change this because of many of the things that are coming along with this. I think there's a change in how the Chicago Bears are doing things. I also have to be cautiously optimistic because we don't know what this is going to be. Ben Johnson has never been a head coach. There are questions on what he's going to do. There are questions on what kind of staff is he going to build out. There are questions on who is he going to bring in as his OC, his DC. Most importantly, I love J-Mac said this. He tweeted this out earlier. Who's going to be the guy that is his quarterback's coach? Who's going to be his O-line coach? Because remember, J-Mac said that on this very podcast. Those position coaches are the most important coaches that you can have. And if you don't get them right, those are the ones that are spending the most time with your quarterback. Those are the ones that are spending the most time with your offensive linemen, with your position players, and are developing those players. The one thing we haven't seen out of the Chicago Bears for quite some time is development. So that has to be on point. That has to get right here. I like the fact that you bring Ben Johnson in. It's going to be very interesting to see what kind of staff he is able to put together over his time here in Chicago. But the most important thing that I think this Bears team, that I take away from this Bears team going out and doing this is you went out for the big fish. You landed the big fish. You went out for the big name hire. You landed the big name hire. And not only that, I know a lot of people look at this and say, well, this is the Matt Nagy situation. Well, this is the not so much a John Fox. There's the Mark Trestman situation, right? We've done the rookie head coach before. This is not a good position for us to be in. I wanted the proven guy. Remember, with all of those guys, outside of, I guess, Mark Trestman, who, although at that time had an aging defense, which kind of held him back in that first season. But when you look at the Matt Nagy situation specifically, Matt Nagy got handed Mitch Trubisky. Now, did Matt Nagy do everything right with Mitch Trubisky? No, I think he failed him in a many of ways. But at the end of the day, Mitch has moved around the NFL multiple times, been with multiple teams, and has proven to be exactly who Mitch Trubisky was here, usually when he gets a starting job. He's a player who can play above his means, but usually comes back down to earth. Guess what? You're not getting Mitch Trubisky with Caleb Williams. That's not what Ben Johnson is getting here in Chicago. And I think it's very interesting when you point out, right, I'm giving you the weaponry that you need. Now I need your assessment on the parts that we're missing. And the thing that I've seen Ben Johnson at least help with, I don't know if he's been a big or the main name in that room pushing for this, but I've seen Ben Johnson go out there and say the offensive line is one of the most important pieces on this team. It starts with the big boys up front, and have an understanding of that and have a team that is able to identify those offensive linemen. That's what the Bears need most. That's what the Bears need next. That's the most important thing for this team moving forward, is getting those trenches identified and fixed. The other thing that I can say is when you look at a guy like Dennis Allen, we know that he understands that all too well. Remember, he's the DC of that New Orleans Saints Super Bowl team. He's also been a top DC in his time in the NFL. He wasn't great as a head coach. There was some struggles with him as a head coach. Wasn't in a great situation as the head coach. Came into a Saints team as the coach where you didn't have assets to go out there and spend on a ton of people. You had a lot of things locked up. He also locked up some pieces as well that hurt his cap space even more in that. But you kind of came into this situation where you didn't have a choice but to win now, because that was the only option that was presented to you with some of the names signed there. But as a DC, I love Dennis Allen as a name. Diana Rossini also talked about the possibility of Chico Rivera coming in as a defensive coordinator candidate. I think that that's another name that the Bears, you look at what Lance Briggs said about Ron Rivera on this very podcast, one of his favorite years playing defense, because that 4-3 defense was not a playback and passive defense under him. It was an aggressive defense. He was really looking to get after you. So a couple of names on that list that I think are really good names that I'm excited about. Let me know how you guys feel about some of the possible defensive coordinator names that have been thrown out there. Let me know who you would want to see be the defensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears team. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do, man. Here's the big thing for me, though. And again, when you look at the Bears, when you look at what they're building out, this is just the beginning. There's a long way to go. He's got to build out the entire staff here. But the one thing that I will say is this is a win for Chicago, because we know, and Ian Rappaport continues to put this out, that not only were the Raiders very aggressive in getting him, but there was a belief that they would be able to go out and get them. When Tom Pelissero put this out there, Tom Pelissero tweeted out, "A new day in Chicago. The Bears are finalizing a deal to hire Ben Johnson as their head coach per sources." Ian Rappaport quote tweets it and says, "Chicago fights off the Raiders to land Ben Johnson." Remember, Ian Rappaport this entire time has been saying Ben Johnson was a favorite and was basically guaranteed to get that job in Las Vegas. The Bears winning a fight versus Tom Brady, take that for what you will, but to me that does mean something. You had a couple of teams bidding for the number one name. His interest went elsewhere, and the Bears were able to bring him back in and say, "We've got this situation for you here. I understand you could do whatever you want over there, but we've got a good situation for you here. This is the spot you want to be." They had a meeting with him. You get the job done. You get him in the building. Now he gets to actually FaceTime with Caleb Williams. Those are things that I look at the organization and I say different. And remember, I've talked about the entire time, while it feels like the Bears have done things backwards a ton during the Ryan Poles era, the Bears are doing things differently. Firing a coach in season, that is different. Firing a coordinator in season, that is different. You took a chance on Thomas Brown the rest of the year. You kind of gave him a terrible situation to go out there and try and do something with, but you're evaluating him. You didn't fall in love with a guy who went 1-4 and beat the Packers. That is different. Beating the Packers, we know how much that means in this city. You didn't go out there and look at some of these other names who have been the proven guy before, right? Mike McCarthy was a name that you were very interested in, to the point where you were whining and dining him, but there's never been a head coach in the NFL that has won a Super Bowl in another spot. When you take that into account, is Mike McCarthy the guy you want to go with? Not to say that he can't get the job done. I think he does get you some wins. There's a bunch of names on this list that get you in the win column and moving in the right direction, but the biggest question is, are you going to be able to go out there and win the big game? Mike McCarthy has done that before, but would he be able to do that again? But usually, hey, proven guy, knows what he's doing, has the staff in place already. That's the direction we're going in. The Chicago Bears didn't do that this time, went in a different direction, and are willing to spend money to bring in the best staff possible. Again, doing things differently. I'm not sitting here telling you that I can guarantee that this thing ends in a Super Bowl. I'm not sitting here telling you that Ben Johnson is going to be the greatest name to ever coach a Chicago Bears team, that he's going to be this offensive innovator that leads us to the promised land. That is not what I'm sitting here telling you. What I'm telling you is you're taking your best shot at getting that guy. You've got the guaranteed, we know this dude can call offense. That's his offense. You got that here. You've got the guy in the building that we know has led an offense for one of the top teams and has, in bad situations, been able to still put an offense together that is tailored to the players that he has on the field. Now the question is, can he do that coaching a team as a whole? Is this going to be a situation where you're able to get the entire buy-in from the team? There's a lot of buy-in that has to happen here for the Chicago Bears. I've told you that locker room, while they are close, there's very different viewpoints in there, and you've got people doing their own thing. You've got all the podcast guys. You've got all of the guys who are on the radio shows, and we love getting all of the information from those guys. And again, he had the St. Browns up there. The St. Browns have their own podcast, the St. Brown podcast. That's where we got the Caleb Williams information from. Like, it's not to say he's not going to allow these guys to do it, but the understanding of, hey, you got to go out there and put the work in first, and then you can do all of these other things. We heard so many complaints last season about the work that's getting put in. Ben Johnson able to see Dan Campbell firsthand and how Dan Campbell talks about the work that needs to get done, how Dan Campbell will stop a practice to go, hey, listen, we only get a certain amount of these days to go hard, and you guys got to go hard on these days. Today's effort was not good enough. We got to re-rack this thing tomorrow and get back after it. I would hope that we're going to see a completely different situation here for the Chicago Bears moving forward. I would hope that we're going to see now a Chicago Bears team that is being more intentional with the work that they're putting in, not only just in the offseason, but also during the season. I love the fact that you got this done so quickly. I love how you finished out kind of this coaching process when the guys that you wanted did become available. I thought that the list was ridiculous. But like I said, with all of those 20 names, I think that there's some coordinators on that list that Ben Johnson may want to interview as his coordinators moving forward. There's a lot to still take away from all of this. But at a minimum, you took the big swing. You've got your guy. Your guy is now in the building. What are you going to do with your guy in the building? Now, I'm going to be attaching this to another part of the video where me and Shea are talking about a situation after that Lions loss that happened. But the Chicago Bears get their guy. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. Like I said, we had an entire podcast recorded previously that I'm scrapping half of it because it was all about the coaches that the Bears could get. We got a coach in the building that I think is going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to stay tuned in for the second part of this episode with me and Shea Norling, reacting to a moment of maybe where I'm the douche in a tough situation where I stand by it. It's Detroit beef all day. It is what it is. But maybe the guy that I sent some of that beef to didn't deserve that. Shout out to Mitch Lyons. Hey guys, I'm excited to let you know about a new partner of ours, Mitch Lyons Wealth. Mitch Lyons is a former NFL player, and he's the expert in protecting your nest egg and optimizing your income. Go to MitchLyons.wealth.com. That's Mitch, Lyons, wealth.com. MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. All right, Shay. Now,
tell the people what you did. Tell the people what you did.
Listen, I stand by it. I guarantee it. It's a brand name. Name that movie. Come on, you got this.
I can't do it.
You got this. It's a phenomenal movie. Denzel Washington.
Got
it? Nothing?
I got nothing for you.
American Gangster.
Oh, I only saw it once when it first came out.
You know what? I understand that. That movie was long. But it's such a great movie. But so Detroit loses. And I go through everyone in my phone who supports anything Detroit, and I send the same message, basically laughing at their graves because I don't like Detroit. I stand by it. I grew up in Chicago, and Detroit was the bane of my existence. I included Shea Norling and Brendan Riley. in one of those text messages. Shea had no idea why he was there. I said, I said, you're there by association.
I thought it was wrong what you did to
You're
Brendan.
there by association.
I'm going to be honest. I thought it was wrong what you did to Brendan. And I just, you and I are apparently different people in this. I get you have a rivalry with Detroit. That's all good. I think you could celebrate on social media. You could celebrate on the podcast. You could celebrate on your radio shows. Do what you want to do. Nobody's going to hate you for ripping on them. I am not the type of person, though, who in a friend or coworker's lowest moment will salt the wound. I don't do it. I don't appreciate it. I don't want it to happen to me.
Right.
Like, if the Bears in our time together lose a big playoff game, see if I ever fucking do what you did to you. I would never have done that. But now that I know that you will, you better fucking believe.
Come on.
I'll hit you with the sledgehammer.
I want it.
But what I thought was really bizarre was you're acting like the Lions have stood in the way of you or been better than you.
It's not Lions.
You have a Super Bowl appearance in your lifetime.
Yeah.
Brendan Riley has never seen it.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And then you have this hatred for Detroit because the Tigers and the Pistons and the Wings. The Pistons have won one title in 2004. Frankly, like a bizarre kind of lucky title that they got with defense and the old man Lakers. Yeah. The Red Wings have won one since my time being sentient in 2008. How much of the Jordan Bulls were you around for?
3 years, but I was like 3.
Okay, so I was asking because I wanted to, were you watching the Jordan Bulls?
I remember we had ceiling tiles like this. They all fell down.
Now, here's what I would say. I gave up on the Lions as a kid. I had family living in Boston. Yeah. We'd visit them once a year. I'm reverse Big Cat.
Yeah.
We'd visit family in Boston once a year. I'd hang out with them. We'd watch Patriots games, do all those things. And I was like, wow, this seems way more fun than being a Lions fan. So I picked them up, and I'm still with that team. You can think whatever you want of me for it. I don't really give a fuck. It doesn't bother me at all. We did grow. I played baseball, and we had season tickets in my family to Tigers games. So
you're a Tigers
fan. Grew up with the Tigers. Yeah. It's my childhood team. It's the team that I cared most about in any sport, in all of sports, growing up. And you said that the Tigers are a part of the reason why, because of their success.
Not just Tigers. Here's the thing. It's the fans. It's not the team specifically. It's the fans.
That's all well and good.
Yes.
But I need you to understand something. White Sox fan. You are a childhood White Sox fan, dyed in the wool. I am a childhood Tigers fan. If I could kill a distant relative, somebody not close enough to really impact the way I go about my life, if I could pop them from the world to have your experience as a baseball fan, I'd do it in a second. You have seen a World Series victory.
100%.
I have never seen that in 30 years on this earth. Don't ever tell me that I have it worse.
No. See, here's my thing, right? And we've got to go, let's just go last 25 years, since 2000 here, because that's really where my sports consciousness begins. I remember being I remember the 01 Bears vividly, and my dad's like, how do you remember this team? You were 5. I was like, they won. They were amazing. Jesus Christ, somebody out there really going hard. Who was that?
That was Yerk.
Was that Yerk?
Yeah.
Oh. For me, I remember growing up, and rivalries were a thing. And maybe this has died off, but it will never die for me because I went to Blackhawks games. And
Wings Hawks, I get it.
I remember trying to get a Detroit Sucks chant going. Just like, we're playing. It's a close game. And Red Wings fans being everywhere in that stadium and not giving a kid the time of day to sit there and go, oh, Detroit sucks. Guess what? We got this, this, and this. This is why you guys suck. This is why you'll never win, blah, blah, blah. I remember going to Tigers games, and no matter the situation, I knew if it was the 9th inning and we were up 1 run, this is probably not going to go my way. In a stadium full of Detroit Tigers fans.
We were good back then.
Yeah, a little bit. I remember going to Bulls Pistons. And listen, Bulls Pistons that's probably the best Detroit Chicago rivalry. Well, Wings and Hawks is probably the best. But I think Bulls and Pistons, of course, because of the 90s Bulls, early on, there were a ton of those tough battles with that Pistons team that wins the championship. And you guys would take over the stadium, and you didn't care that I was a kid. And you would give it to me just like I would give it to any Detroit fan now. And so my beef with Detroit is standing for everyone.
That's fine.
There was a mass text. It wasn't just Brendan. Brendan was a casualty of war, shall we say.
But that it's just you and I as people are going to see eye to eye on this. Because that's fine. And hold on to that hatred and do what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
But I personally am not the fan that invaded and it was a dick to you. Brendan,
you might have been.
Personally,
I
can guarantee you Brendan wasn't.
I can guarantee Brendan wasn't. Brendan might have been a casualty. Brendan, I'm sorry that you got caught up in that.
This is where I'm just, I'm not the guy that's going to tap dance on a friend's grave in their darkest moment as a sports fan.
Yeah.
I try to be like, man, I'm real sorry.
See, here's the
and
thing.
I know even that people don't want to hear sometimes.
But see, here's the thing, because this is the thing. It's about the rivalry. There's not a rivalry you'd salt the wound. Jets fans, you don't have a Jets fan friend or a Dolphins. Well, Dolphins, not really.
Not to a friend.
You also you've been dominant with your sports fandom for the Patriots. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just there's nothing, because for me,
I know what losing.
I have a Twins fan friend. Whenever they lose, I send them a smiley face.
I know what losing feels. Well, that's different because they don't win anything of substance. I know what
but they beat us all the time.
Like I know what losing feels like.
Yeah.
And I feel for people who haven't won.
Yeah.
And for Lions fans to have this season where that's the most successful in franchise history.
It's probably going to be the best of the bunch.
Your reward is not even a playoff win.
Yeah.
And Brendan was at the game, and he's probably leaving with his fucking heart broken, heartstrings falling out of his chest.
And I river danced.
And he looks at his phone, and he's got Pat in his phone saying, "You just hate to see it." You know what I would have done if I were Brendan?
Grinch smile as well.
If I were Brendan, I would have rocked my phone off the concrete so hard. Like, it's not the way I operate.
I get
when my friends lose, when my friends' teams lose in huge moments, I do genuinely feel bad.
I get you. I guess just because here's the thing. First off, we're having a trash off city to city here. Like
yeah,
over the last 20 years, this is called a trash off.
It's not even a mid-off. Yeah, this is like when the two nerds at high school start fighting each other and people aren't even really entertained by it.
Yeah.
Like they can't get an audience. It's just, oh Jesus. It's just sad.
We're having a mid-off here, but or a trash off here. But it's one of those things, and maybe Brendan got caught up in it. I will say this.
I'm just saying you're the douche. That's all I'm saying.
I will hold that. And it might have been a few drinks in.
Yeah, I could tell.
It was
you know who else was a few drinks in? Me. It's why I was answering that way.
I loved it. And I will say this. I included you in it because I was like, Brendan's not going to text me back. Shay's gonna go at me.
I don't know.
I needed some aggression.
I don't know if he even wants me to say this. And if you're not familiar, Brendan works in our management, content management. He's great. But he did text me and said, "I'm not saying anything in there," but that did piss me off.
Brendan, I get you. I understand. You were a casualty in that. But it's beef with Detroit standing. I got to stand on it.
I'm happy.
Even
I'm happy for you.
Even
and you
when
should feel that
remember when the Tigers lost and you walked in, and I was the first person you saw. Well, after the show, I was the first person you saw. I just smiled at you.
The anger that I had in my
100%.
core.
And guess what? You know what you can say to me? You have the worst team in baseball history. You can't talk to anybody. I do.
Yeah.
And I love that.
But you know what? Whose record did you break?
We did break the Tigers record. So we did break the Tigers record.
How much can I really say?
I
can't say anything to you. You have watched a World Series victory.
Yeah, but I can't even listen. At what point can you bring it up anymore? You guys have been.
You can bring it up to me. I've never seen it.
No. Here's my thing, and we can end the pod on this, and I'll ask you this: the World Series is amazing. As we're getting here now with some of these championships that Chicago has won, you start to wonder if it's one of the worst things that has happened. Maybe not the Blackhawks. I think those are great, but like Jerry believes he can do that again. They build teams like you can do that
I
again.
get your, because Ricketts feels the same way too.
I would almost. I love the championship. I love the 05 White Sox. They're my favorite team. I have them to remember, and it is a childhood moment. But we've never been competitive again. We had one season after where we were competitive, then they were done. You had 2018 where you're a little bit competitive. I think 10 or 12 we were competitive, but you never had any real compete ever again. The Bulls in the 90s, Jerry Reinsdorf got lucky and got the greatest player of all time and said, "I'll do that again."
Well, I think it's correlated. It's not caused. I think it's when you have an owner like that.
Yeah,
your only pathway is get lucky and find incredible discount talent.
Yeah.
However you have to do it.
But it's just, I would rather have every year of my life be fun and competitive. And yes, maybe it ends in heartbreak at the end of the season.
Oh boy, no.
But every year is competitive.
We're going to wrap this up. Go talk to a Steelers fan. Let's see how they're feeling.
Well, I mean, they got a lot of championships to beat their chest with. And you know you're going to have a good season. You want to know?
Yeah, but this goes to your point about how long can you bring up the championships. You go 15 years without one, and you don't even have a year in there where you're sold hope because your team's too good to do anything meaningful to get better. Yeah, come on. That's brutal.
Yeah, but I think here's my point in that is I watched Maggie sketch this year. She was excited about her Steelers. She enjoyed weeks of her life. I enjoyed 3 weeks this football season.
Maybe I'm just it might be just the way I'm wired, because for me, like, if I'm a Lions fan, if I'm a Ravens fan, really those two teams, or an Eagles fan, should they not win, this season was about one thing:
win a championship,
winning the Super Bowl.
100%.
And if you don't do that, then the whole thing was a wasted failure. That's where I think Detroit's at. That's where I think Baltimore's at. If Philly doesn't win, that's where they'll be at. Buffalo, Kansas City, all in the same boat. This is not about the fun we had along the way. It is win it or you fail.
100%.
And maybe that's a me issue, that I'm wired differently and it is that strong. But as a kid, when I was growing up, I would have traded the 8 years of the Tigers being competitive for them to win it in one. I would have taken one pop-up year where they get the trophy, and I'd have sacrificed to the other 7 where they were competitive.
I get you. I get you. We are on opposite ends of this, because while I love my 05 championship, and I just want them to, like, show me you care. The Tigers show you guys they care.
No, they don't.
The Tigers have been a competitive team more times in the last 20 years than than the White Sox have been a competitive team in the last 40 years.
But you and I are the same now. Like, I just that team just has to get lucky. I'm at a point where I'm like, I live here now. This is home now. I've been here for 5 years, and that team is run so fucking horribly that I'm just like, why even continue to invest any of my life into that? Like, this is it.
That's the worst part, dog, because I'm not going to lie to you. As we got 2 weeks left here in the football season, 3 weeks with the Pro Bowl, whatever. I know they're going to suck, but I'm so excited for baseball season again. I hate it.
I'm dialed.
I hate it. I'm so excited for baseball season to get here. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Let us know where you stand on the rivalry conversation. Should you go at your friends if they're in their worst moment, in their lowest moment? Or
bad guy.
Should I have left that alone? Am I the bad guy there? Maybe. I can't say. I can't say. Brendan might have been the catcher. I'm not gonna lie. When I got up the next day and I was like,
specifically him. I'm like,
specifically,
of
he's the
all
nicest
people.
Dude. Yes, there's some Tigers fans and Lions fans in my phone that deserved it. Brandon might have been a casualty. But appreciate you guys for showing love as always, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. For Shea Norling, it's your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. Peace.